Welcome in to Greenville Grit. This is Greenville Residents in Touch with your hosts, Terry Williams and Michael Overton. This is the show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Greenville Toyota, the Overton Group, and Bill Clark Homes. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Welcome to the Greenville Grit. I'm Terry Williams.
And I am Michael Overton. Terry, we're here. We've got a great show today. We've got a great guest. Our Pitt County Sheriff, Neil Elks, will be on with us today. And
that's right.
Got a lot of exciting things to talk about with what's going on in the Sheriff's Department and the community.
That's right. Some might think it's a little bit strange to have the Pitt County Sheriff on because we do a lot of Greenville news and issues, but we think that it's really important that we also see what is going on with Neil and with his department because it obviously has such an effect on what happens in Greenville.
Absolutely. But before we get the Sheriff on, we do want to make sure we thank our sponsors. We got Bill Clark Homes.
Bill Clark Homes. That's right. Bill Clark Homes. Thank you so much for sponsoring our show. If you need a brand new home, new construction in a numerous amount of neighborhoods in Greenville, Bill Clark Homes can help you with that.
That's right. We also have Greenville Toyota. If you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion vehicle or need your car serviced or a new used car, whatever you need, go see Craig Goess at the Greenville Toyota team. They can be reached at 321-3000 or they're at Memorial Drive here in Greenville. And we have the Overton Group.
Overton Group. Thank you, Michael.
Real estate and property management professionals. We have an office in Greenville and in New Bern. We do commercial property management, business brokerage, residential brokerage, and a little bit of everything when it comes to real estate. So,
full service.
Full service real estate firm.
That's right.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break, come back with the Sheriff, and we'll finish up the rest of our show. Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. This is Michael Overton along with my co-host Terry Williams.
Welcome.
You could join us today. And we also have the Pitt County Sheriff, Neil Elks. Neil, thank you so much for coming on with us. We look forward to talking to you today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Well, we've got a few things to talk about. A lot of people, they're seeing your signs out in the yards. They're like, well, why is he running? The other guy withdrew. Wanted to make sure we clear this up. Tell us what's going on with the election and one of the reasons signs and donations and campaigning is still going on.
I'm glad you asked that. 'Cause everywhere I go every day, it scares me because everybody says, you don't have an opponent. You don't have an opponent, but we do have an opponent. You know, we had an opponent filed the last 30 minutes of the filing period, the last day. And although we all know that a letter came out in the paper that he chose to withdraw, we breathed a sound of relief after that happened. But shortly later, we learned that the law had changed last year that prohibited him from withdrawing that late into the game. So he is an active candidate. His name will appear on the ballot, and we've got to get the message out to all the supporters that we need your support.
That's right. Exactly, though, he's really technically not running as far as he's concerned, but his name is still on the ballot. So
that's right. And he technically could win.
And he could. So that's why it's going to be important.
That's right. And, you know, we're trying to encourage all the people that support what we do and believe in what we stand for to get out and vote and cast that vote for Neil Elks for sure.
Well, that's right.
That's right.
And that day, and I think we're talking to you in the lobby, you're running against him in the primary.
Exactly.
So that's what everyone needs to know. You got to vote in this primary. When does early voting start?
April 24th.
April 24th.
And the primary date is May 6th. All right. See, I don't know these dates. Well, so April 24th to May 6th, make sure you do go cast your ballot. We're going to have also next week, go ahead and mention, we'll have Brian Brown on.
Brian Brown will be here.
This is political season here, and it'll be running political season to November. But in your case, once this primary is over, you don't have anyone to run against.
And no
all the way to
opposition in November. That's
right. So very important to get out and vote.
But in November, you'll still be on a ballot. People will still need to vote.
At that time, I would still appreciate a vote of confidence from all citizens of Pitt County.
Exactly. So all that being said, then, I think we'd like to know a little bit about when you first decided to run for sheriff. Of course, you'd had a huge amount of law enforcement experience all of your life and in your family as well with your dad. And but tell us a little bit about what you set out to do and tell us about some accomplishments.
Well, during our campaign in 2010, we had made a lot of promises to the citizen. We saw a great opportunity for us to be able to reorganize our department, and that's what we did. We basically went in and, you know, my goal was if you couldn't cover the basics, and why are we specializing in this division? So basics that I looked at was that we need to get more deputies out in the field, and we need to reorganize our department. We had a lot of people that were holding office jobs down that had law enforcement experience, and there was one law enforcement officer that had guns and everything and cars to drive. So we basically redeployed 15 people. We took people out of their office and put them back into patrol cars and put them back out working the areas where they were working a smaller geographical area with hopes of being able to cut down on response times, get to the citizens quicker, answer calls for service, actually be able to detect crimes in progress and be able to act accordingly.
So are you divided into, I guess, districts within the county that officers are assigned to, or does everybody just go according to who's on duty and they go where the call is?
No, everybody's assigned a district. We have a district, and sometimes there's nights that we may not have somebody working for training and vacation and people being off.
Right.
But generally we have somebody in every section. If not, the neighboring section would cover their calls.
Okay. All right.
Well, I know we wanted to talk also a little bit about budget. That seems to be such a big subject everywhere now. Everyone wants to avoid tax increases. But talk a little bit about the budget. I believe you had a shortfall when you came in. And
Yeah, a lot of people, when the sheriffs come in, they always get a honeymoon period. We didn't never had a honeymoon period, so to speak. Our first year, we took office in December, and in July, we lost $2.5 million out of our budget due to the economy and where we were in the recession and stuff. So that was very challenging. Here I am, got a fleet of 160 cars, and about approximately 50 cars with over 150,000 miles. Now those 50 cars are over 200,000 miles.
Wow.
So the replacement was very challenging. We were due to get like 25 vehicles the first year, and I think we ended up getting maybe 8. And it's been, we've not sure what we're going to get this year, but dealing with the budget restraints that we had, we lost personnel due to retirement, and people were being retired, and they wouldn't replace those positions. So that was more challenging. So I was still determined that we were going to still meet the needs and fulfill our campaign promises of providing a greater service. So we had to be creative. We found ourselves price shopping, if you will. When you go get a car worked on, instead of spending $3,000, we go back and get that transmission with a factory warranty for $1,200. So that was real challenging to be able to work with the $750,000 we have for vehicle repairs and gas and maintenance, which is very limited with the fleet we have. But we were able to do that. And then we knew by losing office staff and different personnel, we had to find another way to do that. So we resorted to a volunteer program. We picked up a lot of volunteers through our Citizens Academy. We've run several Citizens Academy, and those that have participated in that really love that program, and we encourage all people to come through that. So we were able to pick up approximately, we have 120, 130 volunteers right now.
Wow.
That help us in the chaplain, in the jail, in office, and Citizens on Patrol, Mounted Patrol, ATV, and the list goes on and on. But those volunteers enabled us to take our full-time resources and put them out doing more law enforcement style work.
So on the Citizens Patrol, the Citizens Academy, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
When is that? Every year?
We've been running 2 classes a year, and I think we're going to try to run 3 this year. We get a lot of requests. We got a waiting list of about 100 people right now to go through.
That's really good.
And we
That
can
is
generally
awesome.
run about 25 at a time, and they love it so much they keep coming back. Sheriff, we got to have Citizens Academy 2, so we created a Citizens Academy 2. Now they want a Citizens Academy 3.
Right.
So they really enjoy it. But Citizens Academy 2 is real cool. They get to go out and shoot and drive and do
Right.
shoot a simulator. They actually shoot real guns, and they do the same qualification
cool.
courses we do, and they get experience in that. They actually act more like a police officer or a sheriff's deputy, if you will. They do court security. They do crime scene investigations, and we give them some scenarios on domestic violence. They actually come in and make a decision whether they're going to make their arrest and where we've trained them and stuff.
I think that's wonderful,
I think
engaging the
that's
public. That
exactly
is
a great way to engage the public, especially in budget. I mean, do you feel where you are now in terms of budget, in terms of personnel? Are you able to support what you have? Are you pleased with what you have? Or I know we could all use more. Everyone wants more.
Well, I've actually put in for 15 officers this year. We need telecommunicators real bad, so we've applied for 4 telecommunicators. I've applied for 4 patrol officers and some detectives and court security. That's one thing nobody knows we have to do is court security. So with the high alertness that we have now on potential violence in the courthouse, we have to be aware and be equipped and be able to handle the needs of courthouse security. So we're always looking for more, and we've been able to pick up some of our budget back last year. We were able to get some of it back, but I feel like we can do a lot more. As people expect us to do a lot more, and we're relying on the commissioners to be able to meet our needs.
Well, if you maybe because I didn't know about the Citizens Academy, how do people that have an interest in that, how do they get involved?
They contact Lieutenant Kip Gaskins. He's in charge of our Community Impact Unit. He'll put your name on the list, and he'll let us know when the next academy is coming up. And we basically do a background check on people and make sure that they're suitable to go through our academy, if you will. You know, people that have felony records, we don't want to educate the criminal activity on things we do. But
TV does that. You
Yeah,
know.
really.
Yeah, that's true.
Internet.
But what we try to do is, you know, pick good candidates out that really benefited from it, and we have a lot of supporters from that, and I call them my cheerleaders. You know, I find them a lot of times they'll call and say, "Well, Sheriff Elks, I was at a women's group the other night, and they were just bad-mouthing you and this and that." And I said, "Wait just a minute. Let me tell you why they don't do that." Because she understands the call volumes, or we had other things we were doing. And she explained to them about some of our budget restraints. It was kind of funny. Last year, I got a call from a couple of county commissioners and said, "Who's all these people you're sending up here?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And they started naming names to me. And I realized they were some of my previous Citizen Academy people. And they were up there telling them, "Hey, look, you need to see what the sheriff does. You need to understand what he does. You need to go ride with him. You need to go to a Citizen Academy." Them guys have a lot of responsibility. So they did this without us initiating. And I thought it was pretty cool because they get out there and they're a lot of times our advocate and our cheerleaders for us.
I have a question. So, of course, we have police departments in all of our cities, like Ayden, Farmville, Greenville, obviously. But then when you have certain calls that we see, maybe both the local police, and let's just say a crime occurs in Ayden, at what point are you called in? Is there a city limit, Ayden, and then if it's outside of Ayden, they'd call you in for your help? Or what constitutes when the sheriff's department steps in?
Well, in that type of situation, we would act as a support unit, but we have countywide jurisdiction from each county line to the east to the west and the north to the south, including the cities. So we are the most powerful law enforcement officer as far as jurisdiction goes in the county. We can go in and assist Ayden, we can assist Greenville when they call upon us, but if we witness a crime occur in front of us, we'll take immediate action.
I see.
And a lot of times you'll see us in the city doing law enforcement work, and people may not realize that some of the things we do like civil process. That's the sheriff's responsibility. Somebody takes out a paper for non-support or not paying their rent or civil process, we would serve that. And we have to serve a lot of out-of-county child support warrants as well as in-county child support warrants. So we're always in every city in the county performing our duties.
So you have a lot of duties, a lot of area to cover.
It's a lot of responsibility, it really is.
I tell you, one of the things that's been in the news the last couple of weeks are the two kids and their kids that decided to fire a gun at D.H. Conley School.
Wow, that was terrorizing.
I know.
Did they have past criminal records? I mean, was there anything?
We had no indicators that they would be potential problem kids about that. You know, and several people have asked me, what was their motive? Why did they do it? You know, it really don't make a difference what their motive was. The consequences are going to be the same. Anytime you take a person, much less a kid, 18, 19 years old, and give them a loaded gun, and they have no respect or care for life and fire a .45 pistol in the direction of a school. I actually received one of those phone calls, and I'll just tell you, it's my daughter. She works out there, and she called me, was terrorized. I never heard a person so fearful for their life.
Right.
The bullet came in the direction and the sound of her room where she was sitting at. And I could not convince her that the shooter was not there.
Right.
And she was that terrorized. So that's just one case, and that just touched my heart because you realize how many other people were fearful for their life. And the fact is, we had ROTC going on. We had people on the tennis court, people in the parking lot. Somebody could have been killed.
Right.
And that is a serious matter. We need to take that serious.
That's right. Well, I think it's probably, too, in the forefront of everybody's mind with the recent activities in schools that have happened across the country. So, obviously, if we even heard, even if it wasn't true, but we had heard that someone rode by and shot at the school, we'd immediately, have, unfortunately, that fear that somebody, may have gotten hurt. So, moving forward with taking the knowledge that you have learned from that particular incident, what do we do in our schools within the system to help protect our kids and our teachers and staff?
Well, the School Resource Officers Program we refer to as the SROs have, been more accepted now, more so in schools than ever before. I encourage us to continue in our budget. I've spoken with several school board members is to even if it's small steps every year, add on more school resource officers. I think we must be aware, and I think they need to be in all schools. And I think it becomes, at first it was kind of a culture shock to see the police officers there, but now they see the benefit of that. They see the benefit of having the officer there to get information, to a lot of times I tell these officers, your responsibility is sometimes to mentor that kid. You may prevent somebody from killing themselves because of the bullying, or they're just depressed, or maybe a bad situation at home. I said, so, you're not only a police officer, you're there to help these students. And by having the officers ready, available, and compare back to the D.H. Conley incident, that officer was there, heard the shot, and had the vehicle description on the radio within 45 seconds after it occurred. And that's how we were able to locate the vehicles we located. One was the right vehicle, one was the wrong vehicle. But
I guess someone saw the vehicle pass by.
Exactly. We had an eyewitness that saw the shooting take place.
It is really, it is a frightening thing. Well, I have a question then. Is there one officer, like in a school the size of D.H. Conley or Rose, very large, I guess they have, 1,800 students maybe? Is there just one officer on duty per
No, a lot of times it
school?
depends on the population. For instance, Rose, I think, has 2. D.H. Conley has 2. South Central has 2.
see.
It depends on the population of the students.
Now, are these resource officers in all of our schools?
I know they are in the high schools and
Okay.
some of our middle schools, and that's where we're trying to work more to now, the middle schools.
I
Now-
just feel like at the middle school age, or it really even starts younger than that. That's one of the things we learned when we were running for our election, and even through our church and some of the programs we've done is the impact for kids starts at such a young age.
That's
and
right.
if you don't get to them when they're young, you can lose them forever. So
That's right. In being the, if you will, the friendly police officer, that's what we kind of want to get
Right.
back to in the middle school, where it's not a culture shock. You go there, and now you got an armed guard. He can be the friendly deputy that stands at the door. And, hey, you'd be surprised the information we get from the little kids. They'll tell a lot of stuff.
They do tell a lot. Well, in some of our schools are like K through 8, like Grifton Elementary or Chicago, so they have middle schools within the elementary age as well. So it would seem to me that might be necessary to have, an officer in those schools. You just
I would
happen
love to eventually have them in at least all the middle schools
Right.
up,
Well, I think that's the thing, too, about the culture shock, letting it be, hey, we are here to help and protect you. We're not here to find something wrong all the time.
Yeah, and I have the ones that the school system pays for several of these officers, but we also pay for some too. And I challenge them. They go around at least once to twice a week and visit every school in the county to be seen. My deputies do. And they go in and just see if there's a problem.
Right.
Start getting the school and the students familiar with the deputy being seen in the school, and it's okay. It's not an emergency all the time.
Are the resource officers trained differently because they're, on school grounds dealing with kids that age rather than strictly adults?
Well, first and foremost, everybody's a sworn law enforcement officer, and they have to go through the basic training. But then we further the education through school resource officers training every year. They have to go through that. They get a lot of training in active school shooting, as well as our other deputies do. But they're trained more on the dealing with the day-to-day needs of the children.
Okay.
Well, I know everyone knows that in the last year and a half, it's been a year and a half now, that Chief Hassan Aiden has been the Greenville police officer. Can you tell us anything about the relationship between how the Sheriff's Department and the Greenville Police Department works together? Any neat little programs you guys are doing, or anything you can tell us?
Well, he and I have a great working relationship. We share a lot of things in common, same problems we're having in common is is violence, drugs, gangs, and just day-to-day crimes in the city and the county as well. He and I, we work closely together. We share a lot of information. We all know we're looking at the same people sometimes, and we just recently reorganized our drug task force unit. We just recently assigned 7 officers to the task force unit, and I think he has 7 officers as well. But also that unit consists of officers from Winterville, Farmville, and I think East Carolina is looking to become a team member on there as well.
Yeah, I believe he mentioned
He
that,
did
they were
mention
getting
that.
very involved, which is good. I mean, that just adds that many more feet on the street.
So a lot of times, like I'll notice on the news, they'll do you all will do a news conference, and it might be a drug bust or whatever you want to, however you term it. And so then I'll see you and Chief Aiden there together. So would that give the public the idea that that was something maybe you all were working together?
Yeah, generally a lot of times our detectives work cases together, but a lot of those drug arrests are as a result of the drug task force that we work together on.
So it definitely takes everybody working together.
And you put that many officers that are highly trained in that, and you start compiling informants and being able to do surveillance and getting information. We've really hit the ground running in the last 2 months on this task force. We're really making a lot of arrests and making a lot of headway. And,
That's great.
And a lot of drugs that were meant for Greenville are being taken off the street.
Well, I know, looking at just some of the stats, and we're not going to get deep into them, but you're obviously doing something right. I mean, right now we're looking at it. We haven't gotten Greenville's yet. I think he said it'd probably be a June, I believe, when we got
Something
the
like that.
2013 numbers end of the year. But basically in Part 1 crimes, I mean, from 2010, 1,564 down to 2013, 1,311. So around a 20% drop in crime is pretty impressive. So
We've
not
worked
too
hard
bad
every
in your first term.
Well, the first year we were actually up 1%. So I gave that credit from 9 to 10. I actually gave that credit of the way we report our crimes. We're going to be fair. We're going to report everything accurate. So last year alone, from 13 to 12, we were down 9% in that area.
Yeah.
But overall crimes. But, you have a spike in crime, certain areas. But, the biggest line I watch is that homicide murder line right there. Last year, we about went the whole year without having one. And, we ended up having 3 right at the last. And matter of fact, one might even stemmed over from the year before, but where he was in the hospital and died later. But we watch our robberies, we watch our murders and our break-ins. To me, break-ins is a very important crime. A lot of people just kind of look over them, but those are the kind of crimes that change people's lives forever, although they didn't have a gun stuck in their face like a robbery. But, they don't feel safe in their homes anymore. To me, everybody's home is their castle. They need to feel comfortable that they can go to bed at night and not have to worry about somebody coming in and breaking in their car or stealing their belongings.
That's right.
Well, we have to go to a quick commercial break. We'll come back, wrap up with Sheriff Neil Elks, so we'll join you in a couple of minutes.
Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. We've had a guest here today, Sheriff Neil Elks, and we so appreciate you being here. I've known you for a while, Neil, and really glad to have you in charge of our Pitt County Sheriff's Department, and we want that to continue with
Exactly,
the
me
election
too.
coming up. That's right.
Thank you.
Well, tell us. As we said, I want to restate. Make sure you vote. You got to go vote. Sheriff Neil Elks, he is not running unopposed, even though the opponent did withdraw. So Democratic primary. Make sure you cast your ballot for Sheriff Neil Elks.
That's right.
Tell us, what are you looking to do in the next term? What are maybe some of the goals that you can discuss?
Well, we
with
want
us?
to continue being concerned about our victims and making sure that our crimes, our solvability rate is high, just like it is now. And we've increased our solvability rate. We're actually about 20% above national average. We want to make sure that we continue working on our budget and meeting the needs of the citizens. We want to continue making our community safe as well. And we love our volunteers. We want to make sure that we continue working with our volunteer program. We want to make our community a safe place to be. We want to make sure that our citizens feel safe at home, in schools, and their workplaces.
That's right. Now, last week, I believe it was there something like a Victims Advocate Week celebration or something? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we like I said, victims are always important to me. And we went, there was a national campaign they do every year, and we chose this year to hold a big rally at the courthouse. And every Monday night we had a big event, and Friday we ended it up with a speaker coming in that had been a victim of a crime where her son had been killed in a homicide, and we used her as a guest speaker. But our message was to let the victims know that we are their voice for them, and all law enforcement officers have a great place in their heart for victims.
Right. I know Chief Aiden also mentioned, I think it was a lot of people were involved in law enforcement with the not celebrating the week. You hate to say you're celebrating victims, but just, I guess, honoring them.
Honoring them. That's a good word. That's right.
Yeah. So,
And sometimes we have to be the voice for ones that didn't survive, the case, homicide victims. We have to be their voice for them, and we have to make sure that their voice is heard during the trial, and we have to represent them, what kind of person they were. Here's an innocent person who's been killed, and and somebody's family suffering because of this victim, and I just have a great passion for victims, and I want to make sure that we honor all our citizens. We continue to provide a good service to our citizens through customer service. One thing we do, a lot of people don't realize, is gun permits and concealed carries. We issue hundreds of these a month, and sometimes that's the only service they get from the sheriff's office. So we make sure our customer service is good, and we make sure our employees treat people with respect. And that's one thing we demand.
What do you I know part of the citizens, what do you see as probably the biggest concern for citizens in Pitt County right now? Is it home break-ins?
I always say their safety. Public safety is the number one concern of mine. I want our kids to be able to go out in the yard and play. I want them to feel good in their neighborhoods.
Right.
And I want, you be able to go shopping at the mall and not have to worry about somebody sticking a gun in your back at night,
Any advice you can give on there, just so people, maybe things they haven't thought about that? or that could be common sense, but we just don't think about that.
Well, people understand there's a right. They can apply for concealed carry, and they want to arm themselves. If you feel comfortable doing that, I encourage you to do that. That's a great right you have, is to be able to arm yourself. But I encourage you to, at the same time, be knowledgeable and make sure you can handle the weapon of your choices you choose to do. But always know your surroundings. And we do a thing in our community where we go out and do a home assessment, a security check. We'll come in, look at your house. We'll make recommendations. You may not notice that bush is too high, and we do. Or maybe we need to recommend some security lights or alarm systems. We do that free of charge to businesses and homes as well, and I encourage people to do that.
Who would they call to look into something like
Our
that?
community impact, Lieutenant Kip Gaskins' unit handles that. They can dial the 902-2800 number, and they'll switch them right down there.
That's good to know.
Well, thank you again for coming on today. It's been a great just to talk to you, and I've known you for a couple of years. I think you've done a great job.
Well, thank you. I
I'm
appreciate
proud to
it,
have
Mike.
you as our sheriff, and we're going to wrap this show up. We've got, again, Brian Brown on next week. If you got any questions for Brian, make sure you send them to greenvillegrit@gmail.com.
That's right.
Reminder that the show also is on Cable 7 on Friday night at 6:30 and Saturday morning at 9:30. So we look forward to having you guys back next week. And
Yeah, just a reminder, early voting starts April 24th, primaries May 6th, and don't forget, get out and vote. Your voice needs to be heard.
that's right. There's a lot. Democrat, if you're unaffiliated, that's one of the things I was asked. If you're
That's right.
unaffiliated, you can decide to run and vote for the Democrats, or you can decide to vote for the Republicans. You can't vote for both. So, again, go vote for Neil Elks, and we'll be back again with Brian Brown next week.
That's
and
right.
We will see you next Wednesday.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.